It's the biggest game changer to hit the battlefield since the rifle. This is the M2 heavy machine gun, also known as the Deuce. Capable of delivering 600 devastating rounds a minute, the Deuce is the gold standard in heavy machine guns. Designed for sustained fire and destructive power. I'm on a mission tracing this monster of war's evolutionary trail. From primitive forerunners to international rivals daring to take the M2 on. It's the M2 heavy machine gun. And this is a weapon that changed the world. Firepower. Nothing shaped military capability more. I'm Will Willis, former Army Ranger and Air Force pararescueman. I've trained with modern weapons until firing them is second nature. Now I'm teaming up with leading experts to examine the greatest military firearms of all time and discover how these weapons change the world. No machine gun has made a greater impact on the world than the M2, the big 50 cal created by legendary weapons designer John Browning. The Deuce is one of the most enduring, successful, and deadly weapons of all time. The classic M2 HB, or heavy barrel model, is an incredible force multiplier, capable of firing 600 rounds per minute. The day after the conclusion of World War II's Battle of the Bulge, the U.S. Army's 3rd Infantry Division is positioned in Holtzwihr, France, where the M2 plays a pivotal role in one of the most amazing demonstrations of courage under fire in combat history. A seemingly unstoppable force of German tanks and infantry launches an attack. Leading B Company is 2nd Lieutenant Audie Murphy.
They're coming on the right and the left, over.
Murphy orders his forward positions to fall back, but he stays put, directing artillery fire on the advancing Germans. Still, they keep on coming, and so do the tanks. Murphy's last hope to hold off the enemy, a Deuce mounted on a burning U.S. tank destroyer. Scrambling his way onto the vehicle, he fearlessly swings the 50 caliber machine gun into action, knowing the tank destroyer could explode at any second. For an entire hour, the Germans throw everything they've got at Murphy. Amazingly, he holds them off. Despite a wound to the leg, Murphy uses the Deuce to mow down attacking Germans. By the time he runs out of ammo, Murphy's killed or wounded at least 50 enemy soldiers and put the attackers on the run. For his courage and skill with the M2, Audie Murphy earns the Medal of Honor and a lasting reputation for military heroism. This is it, the M2 heavy machine gun, just like the one Audie Murphy used that day. Man, that feels really good. There's almost no recoil to manage. I haven't fired one of these since I was in the Ranger Battalion, and it still feels really good. It's a nice, accurate weapon. I've got targets. I'm all over them. To get the inside info on the Deuce, I've called in former paratrooper and West Point grad Dave Stouffer, who runs the Crew-Served Weapons program for General Dynamics.
The M2HB is the ultimate in weapon design. It's reliable, it's accurate, and the firepower that it delivers to the target is devastating.
Dave, good to see you.
Hey, Will.
Hey, this M2 is a brilliant weapon. It's been in use by the United States military for over 80 years. What can you tell me about this weapon and why it was designed?
The original M2HB on this table was designed by John Browning in 1918. With the introduction of armor and heavy vehicles onto the battlefield, General John Blackjack Pershing came to Browning and said, I need a weapon that has more firepower than the 30-06 machine guns that we have now. They took that 30-06 round and they scaled it up to a 50 caliber version. Once they created the round, he said, Browning, I need you to design a weapon around this bullet.
So the ammo came first, and then the gun.
The weapon was built around that round. And in 1933 was type classified as the M2HB, and it has remained unchanged to this day.
The M2 is a belt-fed, recoil-operated weapon. In just 1 second, this ingeniously simple mechanism can feed, fire, and eject up to 10 powerful 50 caliber rounds. Now, this cartridge is all about penetrating power. So what do you say that we take some of these rounds and we go test that power?
Let's do it.
All right, man. Dave has set up a few targets to demonstrate what even an out-of-practice shooter like me can do with the M2. In World War I, the primary fortification would have been sandbags, correct?
Absolutely. So what we have set up here, Will, is we have a fortified fighting position, approximately 12 inches of sandbags, 2 targets behind those sandbags. Your job during the scenario is engage that fortified position with the M2HB in automatic mode and destroy both targets.
Nice.
We're going to make this interesting. Do 2 things. We're going to measure rate of fire.
Okay.
And with the stopwatch, we're going to measure your time to engagement to destroy both targets with the M2HB.
Dave's setting up the chronograph to measure the M2's rate of fire.
It's good.
And I'm ready to rock and roll.
Go! That was great.
You can see we totally destroyed that target, annihilated it, and that's just a lot of fun, man.
Just over 6 seconds to destroy the target.
Nice.
Rate of fire was just over 500 rounds per minute.
I enjoyed that.
But look at that, Will. You hammered that target. Not only did you destroy the sandbags, you shattered the targets.
What you see here is exactly what you would expect from that Mod Deuce. I mean, repetitive, heavy rounds in the same location that punch through this barrier, get to the targets, destroy the targets, and in my mind, just solidify the fact that it is irreplaceable.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Despite successfully serving for more than 80 years, in 2011, the U.S. Army announced it was upgrading all M2s to a new model, the M2A1. Now, if the M2HB is so great, why do we have an M2A1?
With the M2A1, we took some of the best features of this weapon and we made some improvements.
One big advance is the quick change barrel. After sustained firing, the M2HB's barrel can overheat, causing a round to cook off and fire without pulling the trigger.
With an HB, you have to manually unscrew the barrel. That barrel can be anywhere from 400 to 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which will melt the skin off your hand.
The M2A1 simplifies the process.
Barrel change on this weapon is hold on to the barrel, retract the operating group, you can pull the barrel out. Barrel's inserted, locks in place. So what takes approximately 1 minute, potentially 2 minutes on the M2HB, now takes about 5 to 10 seconds with the M2A1.
So General Dynamics hasn't reinvented the wheel. What they've done is eliminate the need for unnecessary movement, and that makes you more proficient in combat.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's go test it out.
Let's go.
In modern conflicts, enemy positions are often fortified behind concrete and stone-type structures. For this next test, we've set up a concrete wall with a secondary torso target behind it. We're gonna see what kind of penetrating power this small deuce really has.
Target destroyed.
Yeah, you can say that. You can see the penetrating power of a single round of this ammunition out of the 50 cal. This wall didn't stand a chance. I pumped 100 rounds into it, and you know, this is exactly what you would expect to see. You know, with internal organs like the liver, you would expect to see mush. I mean, there's nothing left, nothing. So this wall, compared to the power that Mod Deuce brings to the fight, is nothing. Nothing.
Went straight through it.
Man, I'm impressed. Well, our tests clearly proved the power of the Browning M2, a weapon that's so powerful that when I was in the Ranger Battalion, it was generally frowned upon to use it on dismounted personnel. That kind of firepower was reserved primarily for mounted troops in an anti-armor capacity. But I can't help thinking about Audie Murphy and how he used that same Browning M2 against dismounted personnel and armored troops, transitioning from one to the other and one to the other. So we've developed a test to see how well the M2 performs against multiple targets, some mounted, some dismounted. I'm gonna need you to spot for me, and I'm gonna try to take down each one of these targets.
And to make things interesting, just like Audie Murphy, we're gonna limit how much ammo you have. You have 1 can of ammo to destroy these targets.
For a second there, I thought you were gonna say we're gonna set this on fire.
No, sir. All right. Let's do it. Weapons hot. Personnel, 2 o'clock. Hit. 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 Armored vehicle, 1 o'clock. Destroyed. Personnel, 12 o'clock. Hit. 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 Armored vehicle, 11 o'clock.
Got it.
Final target. Aim for the cross. Target destroyed.
Nice.
Well done.
Not too bad, right?
Just like Audie Murphy.
I don't know about just like Audie Murphy. He was on a vehicle that was on fire. Obviously, he's taking incoming rounds at the same time as he's trying to engage these targets. So let's go down range and check out what's happened.
Let's go. Well, what we see here is shifting left to right to these personnel targets. You're hitting them with every burst as you move through it.
And then the tank targets, I had a little bit of trouble with this other tank target. This one here, within a couple of bursts.
Destroyed!
It exploded. This other target, I mean, must have been a little bit more armored. You know, it took me a few more rounds to hit it.
But it was hitting the specific spot. And that was the challenge. You were able to do it on this target right away and hit that spot.
Yeah.
This one you just had to continue engaging.
But what this does demonstrate is how much you can really get these rounds right where they need to be, when you need to have them, and eliminate threats effectively and appropriately, and move on to the next thing, man. That was great. I enjoyed that test.
Good shooting, man. Congratulations.
Because of the M2's effective range, rate of fire, and sheer power, many consider it to be the premier heavy machine gun. But heavy is the operative word. Since World War II, the United States military has been looking for a lightweight replacement for the M2. And now they just may have found what they were looking for. The M2A1 tips the scales at a hefty 84 pounds, but the XM806, a new 50 caliber machine gun, weighs far less at only 45 pounds. Former Marine Corps infantry officer Dave Moran is the General Dynamics project engineer for the weapon.
The best feature of the M806 is the low recoil force. It lets you build a lightweight weapon, gives you a more accurate weapon, gives you a weapon that's easier for gunners to put on target.
Nice. Great shooting.
Thanks, Will.
So this is the M806 by General Dynamics. Is this in competition to replace the M2A1?
It's not going to replace the M2A1. M806 is really designed for special operation forces, light infantry, military police, support units. And by having low recoil forces, it lets you make a lighter weight weapon. It gives you a weapon that you can also mount on vehicles or platforms that couldn't handle the weight or recoil of an M2A1.
The rate of fire appeared to be quite a bit slower with the M806.
Right, I mean, that's the trade-off. However, the sustained rate of fire is 40 shots a minute, same as the M2. So for effective functional rates of fire, you can deliver the same firepower.
Okay, so penetrating power. I know for a fact that this thing is a ballistics jackhammer. I can punch through walls very quickly and engage secondary targets behind those walls. Are we getting that same capability here?
You still got 50 caliber firepower. Well, let's prove it to y'all. Let's go do it.
In my earlier test, the traditional M2 machine gun took out the sandbag bunker in 6 seconds. Can the XM806 match it? So for the purposes of comparison, I've got a fortified sandbag position up there with 2 barrels of paint. We'll see if the XM806 can perform as well as the M2 at half the rate of fire.
Turn your head, charge your hand forward. All right, fire when ready.
All right. How we looking?
You hit the target already.
Then I'm gonna have some fun. Man!
What did you think, Will?
I loved it, man. The nice thing about that slower rate of fire is I could see exactly where the rounds were hitting the sandbags, and I was able to adjust even in between those rounds without wasting a whole lot of ammunition to get to where I wanted to be. So let's go take a closer look at the target.
I don't know, Will. Looks like the 806 didn't have much trouble taking out your target.
No, not at all. You know, that's a pretty good little fortified position, but this thing blasted through in, what was the time?
5 seconds.
5 seconds, and, you know, what do you have? You have just mush.
That's what they say, 50 cal redefines the meaning of cover.
Yeah, it does, man. To fully understand the design elements that make the M2 and all its variations so great, we need to travel back to 1884 and check out the world's first fully automatic machine gun, the Maxim. American inventor Hiram Maxim made his name and fortune when he unveiled a groundbreaking design that became the template for modern machine guns. In addition to being fully automatic, his cloth bell ammo feeding system and water-cooled barrel allowed sustained firepower for the first time. At the National Firearms Museum in Fairfax, Virginia, Senior Curator Phil Schreier has brought out his own personal Maxim MG.
The most memorable nickname that the Maxim had was the Devil's Paintbrush, because it literally repainted the Western Front in the color of red. This is called the 0815. The Maxim was the standard heavy machine gun used by the German army throughout the First World War.
How effective were the Germans with this thing?
The 1st of July, 1916, along the River Somme in France, the British Army assaulted entrenched, well-defended German positions along the Somme River, and by noon lost 60,000 men. And that changed modern warfare that morning.
It's a fearsome reputation I need to check out for myself.
This is Gertrude. This is our 0815 Maxim. She fires 8mm Mauser ammo. She's pretty simple to operate. You put this right in your shoulder. You have the sights offset to the left here, little notch. You see the post up there? Keep this hand up here, but away from your bolt handle. You can rest your cheek right there and just pull the trigger. You ready? Ready. The Beatles had a song called Happiness is a Warm Gun, but true bliss comes from a belt fed.
You know what? That was pretty awesome. I mean, I dig that slower rate of fire. I always find that the slower rates of fire are easier to control, short bursts, easier to control. She was a lot more accurate than I thought she was going to be, especially with those offset sights. And I mean, it felt good being back there. That was awesome. The sustained automatic firepower of the Maxim changes battle tactics that stood for hundreds of years. Advancing in tight formation and mass infantry charges gives way to trench warfare. When the United States entered World War I in 1917, they needed heavy machine guns, so they called on inventor and genius John Browning. Browning steps in with a water-cooled belt-fed machine gun of his own. Designated the M1917, it becomes the primary machine gun of the U.S. Army. Though late to the battle, the M1917 proves its worth in World War I. To find out more about the M1917, I've come to Oklahoma Machine Guns to talk with Michael Muchler, former Marine Force Recon.
It's very unique. It's easy to control. I also like the old cloth thread. You can just slip it right in and go to town.
What is it about the 1917 that sets it apart from other machine guns of the era?
It's incredibly dependable. And to prove that, John Browning demonstrated for the military a 20,000 round continuous fire.
And he did that just one time, I'm guessing.
Oh, no, sir. He set up another 1917 and performed the exact same test, just to show them it wasn't a fluke.
That's incredibly reliable, even for a modern weapon. Does the fact that this is water-cooled help with the reliability?
Yes, it does. It makes it extremely efficient.
How exactly does this water cooling work?
Well, this is the water jacket. We fill it up with water from this port. As the barrel starts to heat up and it produces the steam will then run through down into the condenser. Once the condenser cools the steam and turns it back into water, water boy will then take it, put it back into the port. If they run out of water, sometimes they pee in it.
Well, you know, that works. Well, let's test it out. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right. So I'm pretty excited to fire this. I've never actually fired a 1917.
We'll make it even more interesting. I've got some milk jugs for you to shoot.
It's gonna make a mess. Stand back. All right.
Ready?
Yep.
Fire. Weapons clear.
Clear. All right.
Good job.
You know, the accuracy can't be denied. You've got multiple rounds on target. You got single shots on target. I mean, it effectively eliminated all the targets, but I think you're gonna have some problems with maneuverability.
Oh, definitely.
So what do you got for me next?
Let's go check it out.
All right. The M1917 was a terrific weapon, but not very mobile. Water-cooled machine guns are heavy. The M1917 is a match for the German Maxim in trench warfare, but neither is very mobile. Water-cooled machine guns are heavy. Mobility on the battlefield requires a much lighter machine gun. That gun is the M1919. Browning reduced the weight of the M1917 by changing it from water-cooled to air-cooled. But there are trade-offs. The barrel on an air-cooled machine gun can overheat, causing a round to cook off, so it must be swapped out. To find out if the temperature between a water-cooled barrel and an air-cooled barrel is really that different, we've set up a test. I'm gonna fire a 100-round sustained burst out of each weapon system, and then at the end of that, we'll measure the temperature of the barrels.
Roger that. Right now, I'll take a temperature, and then afterward, we'll compare it with the post-fire. Got 81 degrees.
Okay.
Ready, Will?
Yes, I am.
Fire. All right, let's get the post temp. Got 160.
160, so it went up double from 81 to 160. That's 79-degree difference. That barrel seems fairly cool considering we put 100 rounds through there.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so let's see the 1919 air cool.
Let's do it. Got 80 degrees.
Engage.
Awesome.
Whew, that brass is hot, which means that barrel's probably gonna be hot too.
Yeah, we've got a temp of 347.
So that 347 compared to the 160 of the water-cooled, 1917 is a huge difference. It's a significant difference. But there are clear advantages to each.
Correct. The M1917, of course, with the water cooled, you're going to be able to sustain fire a lot longer. But with the 1919, you can move around, get to another position quickly.
And as warfare evolved, it wasn't like dug-in trench-style warfare. Come World War II, we actually moving forward, assaulting, and we were bringing our machine guns with us, and it made us a more versatile and capable force.
Correct.
After the war, Browning upscaled the M1917 from the 30-06 to the 50 caliber, creating the heavy machine gun that eventually became known as the Modus. But other countries around the world were also raising their game, looking for ways to create a bigger and better machine gun. Japan develops a machine gun known as the Type 92, which fires a 7.7 millimeter round. The German MG42 fires a 7.92 millimeter round, both considerably smaller than the M2's 50 cal. However, the Soviet Dushka fires a 12.7 millimeter round, putting it in the same league as the M2. Soviet soldiers call it the Dushka, which means sweetie. During World War II, the Germans didn't find it to be so sweet. The Dushka performs with deadly efficiency and becomes the standard heavy machine gun for the Soviets. Today, this Cold War beast can still be found in the hands of insurgent forces in Afghanistan. To find out more, I called Ryan Smith, former machine gunner for both the Marine Corps and U.S. Navy, and an expert on international machine guns.
The Dushka was a giant leap forward for the Soviets. Personally, what I like about the Dushka is that the mount is also very revolutionary in that it really does absorb a lot of your recoil to allow for a high rate of fire while still maintaining a high rate of accuracy.
So Ryan, the Dushka is supposed to be a worthy competitor for the Modus. Why don't you give me some background on it?
It was developed by the Russians in response to a need for a heavy machine gun to use for anti-aircraft, anti-personnel.
Now this also looks like a crew-served weapon, like it's not going anywhere. Once it's in place, it just stays in place.
Absolutely. This is going to be a pretty heavy weapon to be lugging around. You're going to need sled dogs to really get this thing around the countryside.
A unique feature that I really like about this Dushka is this seat. I think that it's hilarious and creative to have an adjustable ass seat. So if you got a fat ass, it can accommodate. Well, what's unique about this operating system?
It is a gas piston operated, air-cooled, belt-fed machine gun.
Unlike the M2, where the force of the recoil drives the bolt back and feeds the next round into the chamber, in a gas-operated system like the Dushka, gases created by exploding gunpowder are used to drive a piston. This, in turn, works the action, ejecting the spent cartridge and loading the next.
The barrel is a very unique design. It's actually got these ribbed discs here that what it does is it allows for more surface area on the barrel so that more air can cool that barrel a lot faster.
And what kind of punch is the Dushka packing?
The ammo is very similar to the Modus's VMG.
Okay.
It's actually a 12.7 by 108.
Okay.
So it's a little bit longer. The rounds themselves are about 9 millimeters longer, and they're all armor piercing.
Okay, which is ammunition that you haven't been able to ship into the United States since 1968.
That's correct. So you're looking at paying about 60 bucks a round here in the States.
Well, let's spend some money. So what do you say we put the Dushka and the M2 on the fire line together and see how they match up?
I think it'd be a pretty good match.
All right,
Let's
man.
do it.
Let's roll. All right, Ryan, to demonstrate the explosive firepower of these two weapon systems, I've set up a real-world target downrange. It's a vehicle. Now, there's explosive charges in the front and rear of the vehicle that should ignite when they're hit.
That sounds good. How about you take the Dushka and aim at the front of the vehicle? I'll take the M2 and aim at the rear, and we'll see which weapon system can penetrate the steel body first and actuate the charge. Will, you ready?
Yep.
All right, 3, 2, 1, fire.
Ryan's M2 hits his target first. There it is. Nice shooting, brother. So I was a little high the whole time. A lot of it has to do with the way that these sights are offset. So far above the barrel.
Yeah,
You know
you're
what I
looking at a 4-inch sight radius right there.
And it's 60 bucks a round. I mean, I can't exactly be out here all day freaking just wasting ammo. You did a
Absolutely.
great job, and obviously target destroyed. Good on you.
Thanks.
All right, let's go check it out.
Let's go.
That was a little bit bigger explosion than I was expecting. I mean, you can see the rounds coming through here.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, they just go straight through. So we've got a round that comes through here, through 2 layers of steel, punches through this layer, and it hasn't even really started to tumble yet. I wish we could find some exits over here on this side. I wonder if we can. Yeah, right over here.
You can definitely tell that the rounds have started to tumble end over end
yeah.
at this point. I mean, this one looks like it actually exited broadside.
Yeah, keyhole.
It looks like the Modus came out ahead this time, but I can tell you, I wouldn't want to be on the receiving end of either one of these weapons. They're both just devastating weapons.
I agree with you, but at the same time, I mean, my preference still is with the Modus. And, you know, if I had to go into any kind of situation with a choice of those two, I'm taking the M2 any day. Cool, man. Great. The M2 is famous as a combat sledgehammer. But the true test of any weapon is versatility. The Modus has made a name for itself as the greatest heavy machine gun ever to hit the battlefield. What many people don't know is it's also a very versatile weapon. One of the most unusual applications for the Modus is using this belt-fed, fully automatic machine gun for the surgical precision of long-range sniping. In 1967, the Marine Corps tries a bold and dangerous experiment. Send a sniper into the heart of enemy-controlled territory to test a new weapon system. Gunnery Sergeant Carlos Hathcock infiltrates an area where the Viet Cong presence is so strong, the U.S. can't send in patrols. His weapon of choice for this mission is the M2HB, modified with a telescopic sight. Choosing a position overlooking a jungle trail, for 3 days, Hathcock evades the enemy while observing Viet Cong activity. Finally, he spots a possible target, almost 1.5 miles away. A heavily armed Viet Cong steps carefully and warily out of the jungle. At that distance, Hathcock has to consider such variables as distance, wind speed, and bullet drop. But also humidity, temperature, even barometric pressure. Using the M2, Carlos Hathcock sets a record that stands for more than 30 years. for the longest confirmed kill at over 2,500 yards. Former Marine sniper Grant Reynolds received marksmanship advice from Hathcock while a weapons and tactics instructor at Quantico Training Base.
It's a super weapon. I can't think of a country that's not using the M2 in some kind of configuration. It's just such a formidable, kick-ass, mean weapon. And the stopping power, the act of violence behind this 50 BMG cartridge, it just changed the game, changed the game.
Well done. That was fantastic.
Nice.
So this is it. This has had the record for the longest sniper shot in history.
Yeah, Gunny Hathcock in 1967 made this shot with an 8-power unital scope, 2,500 yards, and it held until 2002, over 30-some-odd years.
What attributes does this weapon have that lends itself to being effective as a sniper weapon?
There's a few things, but I mean, first and foremost is, you know, the max effective range.
One of the things that I've always admired about this weapon system is its just raw power and ability to punch through anything that you throw in front of it.
Oh, yeah.
So to demonstrate that, what I've done is I've set up cinder blocks, and we're gonna pull off one shot on this cinder block wall to see what kind of penetration we can do with a single round.
I like the sound of that.
All right, let's do it.
Here we go. That felt pretty good.
It looks like you punched through 3 or 4 of them. Hey, let's go check it out.
Wow.
We've got, with a single round, the penetration of 1, 2, 3, 4 cinder blocks.
You know, how many walls are 4 cinder blocks, you know, deep?
Not many. And again, we're talking about a single round fired out of a machine gun that is capable of firing 500 to 600 rounds a minute. So imagine just a jackhammer coming through here and taking 4 blocks at a time. What a lot of people also don't understand is that once that round hits this rigid object, the trajectory of that round starts to get thrown off. That round's gonna start to tumble and just spun out of the top of this cinder block.
That's what it looks like it did, kind of like right here, right at the end, just kind of spun out somewhere.
Yeah. So yeah, there we go.
Pretty mean, though.
It's nasty.
Pretty mean.
So to test the semi-automatic precision capability of these weapon systems, what I've done is I've set up 6 targets downrange. They're bowling balls. 3 for you, 3 for me. Each target is 250 yards away and represents the head and shoulder area that, if hit, would instantly neutralize an enemy. Now, at 250 yards, we'll see how effective the M2 is as a sniper weapon. 3, 2, 1, fire.
Man.
I got 1. 2. I got 2. How you doing? I'm hurting over here.
Ceasefire.
Let's go check them out.
Look at that.
I've never actually seen the inside of a bowling ball before.
Just imagine if that's a human head or just any kind of flesh.
That's just devastating, the amount of power behind that round. Well, let's take a look at my targets over here.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
So the interesting thing here is where that round just nicked this target, but because of the velocity and the sheer power behind this thing, you've got cracks running the entire length of the bowling ball. It's ripped this whole section off. I mean, that's just really incredible. You see the same thing over here. So one of the things that, you know, you learn from a test like this is that even though this is a crew serve belt-fed machine gun, it is incredibly accurate.
Yeah. And in the hands of the right person, such as Gunny Hathcock, set up right with just a nice, good, solid skill set, a good sight picture, you can do that at 2,500 yards.
Which is about 10 times what we're shooting from
Can you
today.
imagine that?
I can't imagine that.
Yeah, he was ahead of his time.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Absolutely.
The Browning 50 caliber heavy machine gun, the Ma Deuce, is one of the most successful, enduring, and deadly weapons of all time. We've test-fired its earlier ancestors, from the Maxim, the weapon that changed battlefield tactics, to the Browning machine guns that were the basis for the Ma Deuce, the M1917 and the M1919. And its toughest competitors, like the Dushka, the Soviet machine gun that is still in use. I fired a lot of different heavy machine guns and a lot of different tests and demonstrations. All that experience is just leading me up to one last shooter challenge. Grant Reynolds is gonna put me through the ringer. What do you got for me?
It's time to put all that experience to work now. I've got a good challenge for you. Here's the scenario. We've got a vehicle loaded with explosives, much like a roadside IED. Your mission is to stop that vehicle before it does any damage, okay? You're gonna have 2 minutes to do so, so you're gonna have to use every little trick in your arsenal to get this done. We're gonna start off on the M806 over there. Our first targets are those freestanding heavy bags. Maybe some controlled, accurate bursts, we'll take those out. From there, we're gonna move over to the platoon of silhouetted targets. Maybe a nice sweeping, sustained burst will help mow those down. Now, mind you, the clock is ticking right now, Will, okay? At that point, we're gonna come over to the M2 where I'm at right now. Now, you'll notice in between you and that vehicle, there's a wall. You're gonna have to take down that wall if you even want a shot at that vehicle. Now, once we get through there, you're gonna have to be pretty accurate to set off those explosives in that car.
All right.
Think you got what it takes?
I'm up for it.
Let's see what you got.
All right. Already loaded up.
All right. All dialed in.
All right, man.
You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, begin. Move over to the middle target.
All right. On the 806, the traverse and elevation wheels are different than what I'm familiar with, so I felt a little out of sorts trying to get that squared away.
Nice! Move to the right target. There you go. Down to the platoon silhouettes.
Got it.
Nice sustained sweep.
Once I got to the squad, I was kicking up so much dust that I wasn't really sure of my target. And then, of course, I had Grant calling out, "You're good, traverse." And that's exactly what an AG does for you. So he's spotting my rounds for me, just like a gun crew would work together. Grant and I were working together. Now it's time to see the penetrating power of the M2 punch through that wall and destroy the IED.
There you go. Get some. 30 seconds left, Will.
I knew the wall was gonna have to be punched through to get to the target behind there, and that's what this thing does. It hammers through obstacles. I just started chipping away and created a hole that my rounds could move cleanly through.
10 seconds. Ah, you got it.
That's my day right there. Got it with only 6 seconds left. There it is, there it is.
Nicely done. That felt good, huh?
Thanks.
I know
Yeah,
that
it was
felt
awesome.
good. You got a nice little return from those bags. You went through those really quick.
Yeah.
The accuracy was right on for those. Then once you came down and you started hitting that silhouetted platoon, same thing. I mean, I was looking for all the violence and the sticks to be falling, but no, I mean, you could see the impacts as you move across them.
Kind of lost sight of the targets, but I knew I was running, low on time, so I just started the traverse with the 806 because of that reduced recoil.
Right.
I was able to work the traverse at the same time that I was firing on the targets.
What about that wall? How'd that wall feel?
At first, I wasn't getting a lot of return off of it, but then I saw that I was punching holes through there. I knew that the Modus would do what the Modus does best, which is penetrate the target and eliminate any secondary targets beyond that barrier.
When that car went up, that must have felt good. You just let loose on that thing.
Anytime a target explodes, it's the greatest thing ever.
Nicely done.
Thank
well
you.
done, man.
Appreciate it. From World War II through today, the M2 has been an irreplaceable weapon. Its excellence of design and simplicity of operation create a ruthlessly effective combat weapon. We've covered a lot of heavy machine guns, but there are a few attributes that are universal to all. They give you range, they give you power, they give you accuracy. The Modus delivers on every count. It's the king of heavy machine guns, and it truly is a weapon that changed the world. I'm Will Willis. Locked and cleared. I'll see you next time on the range. It's deadly at close quarters, a weapon with specialized uses that no other gun can handle. It's the combat shotgun, a unique tool for the modern infantryman. A key weapon in the U.S. military arsenal. The shotgun has left its mark on the battlefield for centuries. We're tracking the evolution of this iconic firearm, spotlighting new features as it becomes more intimidating and incredibly lethal. This is the big dog of close quarters combat. This is the combat shotgun. And this is a weapon that changed the world. Firepower. Nothing shaped military capability more. I'm Will Willis, former Army Ranger and Air Force pararescueman. I've trained with modern weapons until firing them is second nature. Now I'm teaming up with leading experts to examine the greatest military firearms of all time and discover how these weapons change the world. Targets! For the Marines of the 1st Law Enforcement Battalion here aboard Camp Pendleton, the shotgun is a versatile tool, just as effective for CQB as it is for large-scale riot control. The official Joint Service Combat Shotgun for the U.S. military is the Benelli M1014, commonly known as the M4. First adopted by the Marine Corps in 2001, the M4 is semi-automatic, which means that it will fire just as fast as a shooter can pull the trigger. The Benelli M4 is built for devastating close-quarters combat. A collapsible buttstock means it can be held in a firing position in tight spaces. And with a range of 55 yards, there's nothing it can't touch in urban warfare. The Benelli M4, it's a great weapon system, feels good in my hands. The pistol grip gives me a familiarity that I really dig. It's got Trijicon sights on the back, red dot up front. Easy to acquire a good sight picture with that kind of highlighted sight system. It's smooth, action's great, recoil's manageable, fantastic weapon system. The Benelli semi-auto action boosts its firepower. After each shot, explosive gases drive the internal mechanics. They eject the spent casing, cock the hammer, and load a new round, all in the blink of an eye. The Benelli has come a long way from America's first combat shotgun. the Winchester Model 1897. First seeing action in World War I, where on the battlefield, the Winchester earns the nickname the trench gun. In the fall of 1918, a determined Allied offensive pushes German troops out of France. But die-hard German units attempt to stand strong. Sergeant Fred Lloyd is one of the American troops out in front. He carries a Winchester trench gun. Its 12-gauge stopping power makes him a one-man army. Sergeant Lloyd pushes forward, braving fire from German rifles. By the time he's done, 30 soldiers are dead or in full retreat. Armed with just a combat shotgun, Sergeant Fred Lloyd liberates an entire town. The trench gun used in World War I was a powerful weapon for its time, but from its longer range to its larger magazine capacity, this Benelli M4 tops it by a long shot. I've called in former Marine weapons instructor Brett Miller to break down the finer points of the weapon.
The Benelli M4, fantastic weapon. Pistol grip, collapsible stock, a lot of options, a lot of power. Only weighs 8 pounds. Take it anywhere, do anything with it. That's it.
All right, so Brett, the famous Benelli M4. Tell me about it.
Well, Benelli M4, it's a great weapon. It's Italian-made for the Marines in the late 90s, about 1999. It fires about 25,000 rounds without replacing a single part. Just a reliable weapon.
And it's also 12 gauge, which is the most common combat shotgun caliber.
You don't get more versatile than the 12-gauge shotgun. You know, you can use it for anything. Long distance, short range, room clearings, door breachings. That's what the shotgun's good for.
The key to the M4's versatility is ammo. Double-aught buckshot sees most of the action. These lead pellets are about 1/3 of an inch in diameter. A typical combat round contains a cluster of between 7 and 9, more than enough to do heavy damage. The M4 can also fire rifled solid slugs. The rifling allows them to travel more than twice as far as double-aught pellets. This is the go-to round for long-distance shots, or for punching through heavy brush to reach a target. Birdshot rounds contain at least 40 small lead pellets. They're typically used to hunt birds due to the wide spread of the pellets.
We also have right here the breaching rounds, which are compressed copper, good for getting indoors, getting through doors, hinges, bolts, things like that.
The Benelli also fires less lethal rounds.
Less lethal rounds would be like a beanbag round here, which we have. It's about 1.25 ounces of soft lead, small lead pellets, basically used to incapacitate some perpetrator, somebody, without killing them.
I've set up a demo to see the Benelli fire 4 different rounds in a combat mission. I've loaded all 4 in the magazine in the order they'll be used. First, I'll be firing what's called a doorbuster round. It's used for breaching doors.
That's it.
Now, it's also officially designated as a frangible piece of ammunition, which means that once it hits that rigid target, it starts to crumble and break apart. Now, that's to prevent over-penetration of the door, ricochet that could injure me or my teammates.
That's right.
After breaching the door, I'll fire beanbag, double-aught, and slug rounds at the 3 targets to compare the damage.
That's it. Let's do it.
Okay.
Go. Some good shooting there, Will.
So right here with the beanbag round, obviously I've got this center mass shot. You can see the beanbag penetrated and it didn't actually go through the target. That's why these are called less lethal. It's
Right.
not that they can't nullify and kill a target, it's just that there's less likely chance.
And normally, less than lethal shots are aimed at the limbs
Okay.
instead of chest and head.
All right, so then over here with the double-aught buck, you get the nice spread pattern, center mass, just like you would expect to see. And then down here, you can see that some of that wadding and even the plastic portions of the shell have come through and, you know, injured this target.
That's it.
Right. And then with the slug, I mean...
Self-explanatory.
Yeah.
Straight
no
to the
doubt
center.
about it.
Small hole in the front, big hole in the back.
Good day for me, but not a good day for
That's
this
it.
foamy guy. The Benelli M4 is an advanced semi-auto shotgun, but some combat units prefer pump-action shotguns like the Mossberg 590, which is more reliable when firing less lethal rounds. On pump-action shotguns, sliding the forestock back ejects the spent shell and cocks the action. Sliding it forward loads a new round into the chamber. Virtually all pump-action shotguns have under-barrel tube magazines. Most hold between 4 and 8 rounds. So what do you think are the advantages of a semi-automatic shotgun over a pump-action?
To be honest, probably just speed. I mean, as fast as you can pull the trigger, as fast as the round goes off. With both of them, you know, a lot of firepower downrange.
Well, you know, I've also heard people say that if you're working a pump action, your eye and the sights have to come off the target.
You know, highly trained professional will keep their eyes on target all the time.
Exactly.
You know, what they do with their hands is what they do with their hands.
I want to test the functionality of your Mossberg against this Benelli. So what I've done is I set up a little shooting course for us.
All right.
So we'll start from this position. On the first shot, you brought the timer, right?
I did.
We have 4 targets each. And as we might find on a battlefield, they're at different ranges. We'll both be loaded up with buckshot, so let's see which combat shotgun, the semi-automatic or the pump action, will cut down its targets the fastest. Time starts with the first shot from this firing position. You have to eliminate the target from each firing position until we get to that concrete wall. The clock stops when you blast a hole through that. It might take a few rounds, so don't be afraid to reload.
Never am.
Okay, let's do
All right.
it.
Start it up. All right, you ready?
Ready?
Go.
After 9 rounds, I have to reload again. In combat, time is a decisive factor. A delay even of seconds can mean you take a bullet instead of firing one.
34-31. Not bad for a Ranger. 34-31.
You know, the double-aught buck didn't punch through the cinder block like I thought it would. It took me quite a few rounds.
Good
I
shoot.
reloaded for you.
Appreciate it, sir. Let me give you this. All right, give the bad boy a try.
34-31 is the time to be.
That's it.
Those distances weren't much of a problem for the Benelli. Now, let's see what a United States Marine can do with a pump-action Mossberg. Ready?
Go.
He's having to reload to punch through the wall. $35-22.
35. I missed you by 1 second.
As Brett demonstrated, distance wasn't an issue. A trained shooter can get rounds on target with a pump action as quickly as a semi-auto. But when seconds count, it looks like the semi-auto is slightly superior. The overwhelming firepower represented by today's shotguns didn't appear overnight. In fact, the history of the combat shotgun goes back hundreds of years. The direct ancestor of every combat shotgun on the planet is the legendary blunderbuss, also known as the thunderpipe. I've asked early weapons expert Paul Masterson to brief me on this flintlock muscle weapon.
My favorite characteristic about the blunderbuss is its versatility. It's not always the most accurate weapon, but what it lacks in accuracy, it makes up for in just sheer violence.
The famous blunderbuss. Can you show me how to load it?
Absolutely. So you'd start by taking it to half cock. You take your primer, prime the pan, lock it down. You're gonna take your pre-measured charge, put it down the barrel. Take your shot, put that in.
How many shot go down that barrel?
For this is a 44 caliber ball, so we're using 6 of these.
Okay.
And then last, you're gonna put your wadding in there, take out your ramrod, tamp it down, return the ramrod, cock it all the way back, and you're good to go.
This thing isn't gonna blow my hands off, is it?
You know, you never know with black powder weapons, but probably not.
That was confidence building. All right, going hot. You always get that delayed sort of reaction, like the flintlock flies forward, it ignites what's in the pan. It's really unusual compared to modern weapons to have that delay between the powder igniting in the pan and the weapon actually sending around, or in this case, it's rounds down range. A little bit of recoil wasn't too bad. I mean, totally manageable, and I can see why this might have evened the odds in certain situations.
Absolutely.
More than 200 years ago, the blunderbuss evens the odds during a critical battle of the American Revolution. After the legendary crossing of the Delaware, George Washington's army braves a 9-mile overnight march to Trenton, New Jersey. Arriving at daybreak, they attack a garrison of Hessian mercenaries fighting for the British. A few Americans carry blunderbusses. Their massive firepower helps overwhelm the Hessians. Trenton is a turning point in the Revolution. And the blunderbuss can take some credit for the victory. The blunderbuss was a primitive muzzle-loading weapon. The invention of self-contained ammo spurs the next major development in shotgun design. The most famous and long-lived shotgun of all time, the double-barrel break-action shotgun. So, what does break action mean?
Well, break action is this right here. It's breaking at the back of the barrels, so you weren't doing a muzzle loader anymore. You had a break action here at the back. You could insert shells, close it back up, pull back your hammers, you're ready to go.
And do both barrels have to ignite at the same time, or can you let one go and then the other?
Well, as you can see here, there's 2 triggers.
Right.
So you can fire them both at the same time if you want, or one at a time. Left, right, left.
Depending on the number of targets and the intensity of violence that you need to get the job done. And I noticed that this particular shotgun has Wells Fargo and Company's Express on the back.
Yes, this is actually an original Wells Fargo and Company Express coach gun. They became known as coach guns because Wells Fargo started issuing these to each of their drivers. Usually you'd have a driver and a guy sitting next to him riding shotgun, providing security on the trail.
So when you call shotgun back in the day, you were calling literally...
You were calling literally shotgun.
Nice.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. What kind of rate of fire do you think you can get out of this thing?
Depending on how skilled you were, you could probably get upwards of 25, 30 rounds a minute with this.
Have you ever fired this?
I have.
I have not, so I'm really eager to get on it.
Let's go to the range.
Okay. was awesome. The double-barreled shotgun is no stranger to frontline fighting. During the Civil War, Confederate soldiers like this one brought his personal double-barreled shotgun to the battlefield. Its reputation for explosive destruction is well known. Armed with these weapons, Confederate raiding parties can overwhelm a Union outpost without firing a shot. Why are they so terrified? Watch this. To show just how devastating these double-aught buck rounds are, I brought in an old friend, the BGT ballistics gel torso. Now, this guy anatomically is correct to a human being. He's got lungs, he's got a heart, liver, internal organs, and also cradled up here in his skull helmet is a brain. What we're gonna do is we're gonna fire 2 double-aught buck rounds out of that coach gun into this BGT, and then we'll come back and see what kind of damage is done.
Let's do it.
All right, man, let me see that thing. For maximum impact, I'm firing both barrels at once. Anytime you pump, 2 rounds of double-aught buck at close range through somebody's chest like that, you're gonna totally take out the heart, you're gonna get into the lungs, the liver. These rounds hit that tissue, started to decelerate, disperse all that energy, all that kinetic energy inside the body, ruptured the heart. I mean, this heart just exploded. And that's what this thing is made for, to stop a target, knock it down, and do some major damage.
So is there any way he could survive this?
No, absolutely not. That was a good question, though. As a combat firearm, the double-barreled shotgun's only limitation is its 2-shot load. To amp up the shotgun's firing capabilities, you need to look no further than John Moses Browning. Browning designed some of the most respected firearms in history. The M1911 handgun, the M1918 Browning automatic rifle, and the first .50 caliber machine gun. Browning is also a brilliant shotgun innovator. His first advance is the lever-action Winchester Model 1887. George Reines, a shotgun instructor and former Air Force sniper, has agreed to show me this landmark weapon.
The most important thing about the Winchester 1887 was it was the first successful repeating shotgun.
Browning designed his shotgun with a 5-round under-barrel tube magazine. Its lever action could spit out 15 rounds per minute. Although the lever-action shotgun is widely used by civilians, I know that the U.S. military never adopted it. Why is that?
John Browning was asked by Winchester to design this rifle. Winchester was known for their lever-action rifles, and they wanted the same trademark on their shotguns. John Browning knew that that technology was going to be outdated, and that if a shotgun was going to be successful for the military, it had to be fast, had to be really easily used. He basically said, do a pump action. Winchester said no, and he made this. You'll find out if you shoot this, it's going to be slow.
All right, well, let's check it out.
Give it a shot, man.
All right. All right, and I'm ready to fire, just like that, right? All righty. Ah! It helps if I chamber a round. Ah! Not my favorite.
Slow, awkward, and cumbersome, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that round, I mean, it was getting hung up on ejection, which isn't ideal, especially when you talk about engaging targets rapidly. But once that round was chambered and that front sight was on target, I mean, it's accurate. And anytime you're accurate, you're deadly. So, I mean, I could see that it is a functional weapon. It's just not the most functional.
Correct.
The very first shotguns fire multiple projectiles from a big single barrel. In the mid-1800s, its firepower doubles. John Browning cranks it up another notch with his 1887 lever-action shotgun. But Browning's Winchester Model 1897 is a whole new breed. Its pump action makes combat shotguns the undisputed masters of close-quarters combat.
The design has been used for all modern shotguns with a pump action for the past 100 years. So it's definitely one of those pivotal firearms of our time.
Was this the original pump-action shotgun?
This is what started every single pump-action shotgun that you know today, this design right here. And basically, this was the answer for World War I's trench war.
Now, in that particular theater of combat, how effective was this?
It was probably the most devastating small arms weapon that you're gonna find aside from machine guns. This is the ticket, this is the moneymaker.
The infamous trenches of World War I sliced across Europe for more than 400 miles. Opposing armies launch a harrowing war of attrition from their fortified trench works. Breaking the stalemate requires new weapons. The Winchester pump-action shotgun has the firepower to take on German forces. It's so devastating, Germany claims it violates the rules of war, and they try to have it banned. Their efforts fail. By the end of the conflict, the 1897 Winchester is known as the legendary trench gun.
So what the doughboys really like about this trench gun is when clearing a trench, they use a technique called slam firing. What that basically is you take the pump action, and every time you pull it back towards the breech with the trigger down, it's gonna go ahead and fire.
So let me get this straight. You just hold the trigger, work the pump, rounds go down range.
Exactly.
All right, man, let's see it.
Let's do it.
That was cool, man. I don't know if I like that, though.
Well,
the idea of not pulling that trigger every single time.
You got to put yourself in their position. If you can get a heavy volume of fire in there, the BBs will spread out and hit mass targets, and you'll be alive.
All right, man, that's cool. The trench gun could also be used in a surprising defensive role.
Another reason why the doughboys love this gun is for grenade defense. Basically, enemy troops are going to throw a grenade in the trench. Before it can reach it, they're going to shoot it out of the air with the trench gun. It sounds crazy, it sounds impossible, but I assure you it can be done. I challenge you to try it, man.
Should be like shooting skeet, right?
It's gonna be the same thing. Concept, same.
Okay, well, we have some grenade simulators set up.
Nice.
You'll be throwing those. I'm gonna try to shoot them out of the sky. If I hit them, they're loaded up with explosive.
Oof.
So we'll know whether or not I did a good job with it. On most battlefields, the opposing trenches were several hundred yards apart. For our test, George will toss 3 grenades from 100 feet, and I only have 5 rounds to knock them out of the sky. It's a good thing my life doesn't depend on my aim. I finally got one. 5th time's the charm. To be able to shoot a grenade out of the sky requires a familiarity with this weapon system that I obviously do not have. But, I mean, the doughboys who were using it in World War I, it was a more rural time in America. I mean, they were probably proficient bird hunters or game hunters at the time. The guys who employed this were very proficient with it. And I'd like to have a little bit more time with it, see what I can do.
Cool.
There's one person who'd have no problem shooting grenades out of the sky. 2-time Olympic gold medalist, Sergeant Vincent Hancock.
I'm only 23 years old now, and I won my first Olympics at 19, the youngest male to do it. And I just want to keep going back.
This is your second Olympic gold medal while being assigned to the Army Marksmanship Unit. What is the history behind the unit?
The unit was established in 1956 by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. We were to train soldiers how to shoot at a higher level and also to win more medals in the Olympics.
Any tips?
Always look at the front edge. That's the biggest key to shooting a shotgun is don't aim, just point and shoot.
So you're focusing on the target rather than the sights, is that correct?
Absolutely.
See, now this is different than typical Army marksmanship because they always taught me front sight, front sight, front sight, always, you know, looking at that front sight. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. All right, man, let's get started.
Let's do it.
I've never shot on a skeet range per se, so what am I looking to do here?
The first thing is you want to try to set your break point.
Okay.
On this high house target, you're going to try to break it about 5 feet before the stake.
Okay.
And you're going to go up about 15 feet, so draw yourself a little box right there.
Okay.
You're going to get a single on this one, then we're going to turn around and you're going to shoot a single over there.
Okay. Pull.
All right? All right, now the low house.
Okay. Pull.
There it was.
Oh, there
Very
it
nice.
is. Now that I've hit my first skeet, Sergeant Hancock is challenging me to a shootout. Did I mention he's a 2-time gold medalist?
All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to have a little competition. We're going to shoot 4 pairs on station 4. I'm going to start it out to kind of show you what it's supposed to look like. Well,
Got them all, right?
yep. All right, now it's you.
Pull. Ah! Mother's ass. Pull. Damn it. Pull. These skeets are faster than I expected. Damn it.
All right, now the low house first again.
Low house, okay. Gotten worse, if that's possible. Pull. Gotta remember, look at the target, not my front sight.
All right, shot the wrong one first. And in our game, if you do that, the first target's a loss, so you have to repeat it.
Okay.
All right, so I'll let you shoot it again.
Pull. I'm a little ashamed of myself right now. That's a pretty bad showing. But I mean, I think that with the knowledge that you've given me, I could be fairly successful. So anyway, man, I just want to thank you for your time. I truly appreciate it. You know, congratulations. You know, you repped, the United States well. You repped the United States Army, perfectly. And thank you for your service, man.
Thank you very much.
To perform his impressive trick shots, Sergeant Hancock uses a semi-automatic shotgun, a direct descendant of this one, the Auto 5. The first successful semi-auto shotgun and another brilliant innovation from John Browning. To fire this landmark shotgun, I've come to the National Firearms Museum, home to one of the greatest weapons collections of our time. One of the most important features of the Auto 5 in combat is its ability to lay down a hailstorm of fire when absolutely needed. So I want to check that out. Going hot. Clear. All right, so it has a little bit of kick to it. It's a great weapon. Rounds went exactly where they needed to go. Targets destroyed. The capability of a weapon system like this, especially when you start talking about in close quarters, you need to lay down a huge spread of fire, get some heads down, take out targets. You know, a shotgun like the Auto 5 is kind of the way to go. The Auto 5 has a tubular 4-round underbarrel magazine. When a shell is fired, the barrel and bolt recoil together. This action ejects the spent shell, recocks the hammer, and loads another shell into the firing chamber. During World War II, the Auto 5 served with the Marines in bitter fighting against Japanese forces. When the Japanese continued to expand their empire into the Pacific, Makin Island is one of their first conquests, overrunning it in 2 days after attacking Pearl Harbor. Less than a year later, Marines delivered by submarine land on Macon to strike back. Some of them are armed with the Browning Auto 5. The surprise assault catches the Japanese completely off guard. Backed in part by the Auto 5's tremendous firepower, the Marines are victorious on Macon. It's a small but important advance in the long Pacific campaign. Even as the Browning Auto 5 is still being used by U.S. military, our Cold War adversaries in Russia aren't standing still. The shotgun that they used is based on the legendary AK-47 assault rifle. It's called the Saiga 12, and it packs a powerful punch. Weapons authority Martin J. Dougherty is an expert on the Saiga 12.
What I loved about the Saiga 12 was it shot fast, it was controllable, felt great.
Okay, Martin, I've never actually fired this particular combat shotgun. What can you tell me about it that might help me?
Well, you will find it familiar. It's the Saiga 12. It was developed from the AK series of assault rifles round about 1990. It's a 12-gauge semi-automatic shotgun.
I do see the similarities. I mean, obviously, they're like twins. Now, whenever we talk about combat, things like rates of fire and weight come into play. What's the rate of fire of this thing?
It's very fast. The action cycle's about as fast as the Benelli.
Like the AK-47, the Saiga 12 is a rotating bolt, gas-operated gun that feeds from a box magazine. The looser clearances between the internal parts of this AK-style design means high reliability. Are there things that can be done to shave some weight and size off of this thing?
Well, it's available in different configurations. You can get a folding stock, you can make various modifications. You've got different sizes of magazine, too.
Hey, so let's go give this thing a shot and see what happens. It's really long. I'm interested to see how it performs.
Let's do that.
Okay, this is my first time with the Saiga 12. I hear it packs a hell of a punch. Clear. All right, so there it is, the Saiga 12. Not my favorite weapon. It fires well. The shot patterns are on point. It obviously does the damage like any double-aught buck round would out of a shotgun. But compared to the Benelli, I don't like the fact that there's no pistol grip back here. I feel a little overextended with this particular weapon. Obviously does some serious damage, but I'd take the Benelli over this any day. Shotguns have long provided a tactical edge in close quarters combat. Now, an innovative new modular design combines their close-up firepower with the long-range lethality of the assault rifle. This compact weapon is built by Seymour Competition here in Warrenton, Virginia. It's the United States Army's newest combat shotgun, the M26 Modular Accessory Shotgun System, also known as MASS. As a standalone weapon, the M26 is much lighter than other combat shotguns. Clear. That's pretty cool, man. It's a great weapon system. Even though you're working the action with your hand, it's very smooth. It feels good in your hands. It's light. It's easy to keep into that shoulder. And because it does very closely resemble the configuration of what's being issued in the form of an M4 or an M16, I mean, I didn't have to change a thing. I was able to put multiple targets downrange, no problems whatsoever. This is a lot of fun, great weapon system. Ira Kay is the designer of this revolutionary new shotgun system.
The M26 is a very unique shotgun system. It's the lightest shotgun in the world that can fire 12-gauge rounds.
The M26 comes in two configurations: as an underbarrel accessory for the M4 or M16, or as a standalone weapon, including a pistol grip. This weapon system fulfills a capability that's required for a combat shotgun, which is to be small, compact, and it is an accessory weapon. It's never the primary weapon unless a target of opportunity presents itself. And you've managed to mount this underneath an M4 or M16 barrel, much the same way as like a M203 grenade launcher. And I've been told that this thing is really easy to take off of the M4.
This is the takedown pin, similar to the two pins on the M4 that you have here and here. Bullet nose, depress the pin, it's detented, and pull it out the other side.
So one takedown pin, look at that, it's off. So it's just as easy to get back on as it is to get off. So once I've got it lined up, push the pin.
There you are.
That's the easiest thing ever. I have to try the M26 shotgun M4 assault rifle combination myself. So we've set up a lineup of targets where I can use both weapons. Once the M4 takes out the small targets at 50 yards, it's time to switch to the M26 shotgun, breach the door, and eliminate the threats behind it. In an urban battle zone, this combination allows a soldier to be effective at distance or in close quarters combat, even with a compact shotgun.
Will, are you ready for the test?
Yes, sir.
Go.
It's time to switch to the M26. Overall, having this M26 mounted to the bottom of this M4 is a great force multiplier. It is a weapon that is definitely viable in today's day and age. You can really tailor your load for your specific mission, and that's a great thing to have. At the present time, the M26 is starting to be issued to the Army in Afghanistan, where it is hoped it will make a difference in house-to-house operations. Our exploration of the combat shotgun has profiled some extremely lethal weapons. Starting with the blunderbuss, a one-blast body shredder. The double-barreled coach gun packs even more of a punch. We saw how John Browning raised the bar. First, with the Winchester lever action, then with the pump-action trench gun. And finally, with the first practical self-loading shotgun, the Auto 5. We tested the Mossberg 590, a pump-action favorite of the U.S. military for decades. And the Army's new M26, a tiny gun that packs a huge punch. Now, it's time to test the shotgun's role in a combat simulation. Each of the guns we've seen has proven effective on the battlefield. But in a lot of ways, the bottom line on the combat shotgun is this sleek beauty right here, the Benelli M4. And here to help me with my final challenge, I brought back George Reines. All right, man, break it down for me.
Here's your down and dirty mission brief. We got a small village that's being terrorized by an HVT, high-value target, who's a bomb maker. Your mission is to get in and out within 2 minutes, capture him alive. He's protected by an unknown amount of enemy sentries, which you can fire at will and terminate those.
And I see for this exercise, we've got drop targets and sentries on robotic platforms standing in for an opposing force.
That's correct. And your secondary mission, once we capture the HVT, is to find his cache of explosives and terminate them.
I'll be providing sniper support as Overwatch.
So this will be a good drill to test the effectiveness of the different rounds available to a shotgun. I can already tell we're gonna need a breaching round for the door and maybe some buckshot rounds for whatever else might be in the way.
Your mission is to get in and get out in 2 minutes.
Let's do this.
All-man army, let's roll.
What I like about the Benelli is that if I have to load a different type of round, I can do that without worrying about cycling the action.
In position.
Roger, I got eyes on.
Ready to breach. Standing by.
Roger. 2 targets out front engaging. Targets neutralized. Clear to go. Clear to go.
All right, I'm moving up to the door. I had a variety of rounds, everything from beanbag rounds, double-aught buck rounds, and breaching rounds. I'm breaching the first door. You got me?
Roger.
Target's down. Room's clear. As soon as I got through the door, there were 2 targets on the inside. Now, I had 2 rounds of double-aught buck loaded up after that breaching round. Ready to breach.
Hold position. I got 2 targets engaging.
Standing by. George told me to stand by because he had eyes on targets.
Targets neutralized. You're clear. HVT is all alone. HVT is all alone.
I loaded a less lethal round and went in. Room's clear. Okay, he's still alive. The HVT was hiding in the corner, so I hit this guy with a less lethal beanbag round, and that dropped him. Now I must destroy his explosives cache. All right, I see a building to the north, possible cache location. You have eyes on?
Roger that. Searching for explosives. Snake eyes, I can't see them.
Roger. I'm gonna go ahead and take it out.
Roger. I'll provide overwatch on your movement.
All right, looks like we've got our cache. I'm gonna blow this in place. How copy?
Roger that, eyes on.
All right, stand by. Boomba, baby! You know it's a good test when the fire trucks arrive. Weapons clear.
Woo!
I like that.
Hell of a shot with a shotgun, brother.
I didn't know it was gonna go up like that.
What happened on the inside, but I want to know.
You know, you took out the 2 targets as I was approaching. I breached the door. There were 2 targets on the inside. Followed up with double-aught buck on that. Of course, you gave me the standby.
Yeah, I had eyes on 2 individuals. Took them down.
Once I came into the room, I hit the HVT with a less lethal round, so he was still alive. Spotted this weapons, munitions depot, jumped out the window, and I'm gonna blow this in place. What was your overall impression?
Well, I mean, mission success, mission complete.
All right, well, thanks a lot for your help. I appreciate it,
Thanks
George.
for having me.
Thank you. We've seen the combat shotgun evolve from a crude body blaster to a sophisticated weapon system that can kill or not kill, depending on the needs of the mission. It's been a hell of a journey, but one thing's clear. This ancient weapon has earned itself a vital place on the modern battlefield. I'm Will Willis, locked and cleared. I'll see you next time on the range. It's a high-speed lead dispenser that can fire more rounds in a minute than most modern machine guns can in 10. Designed to be a battlefield game changer, the Gatling gun's greatest impact is in the skies. On helicopters, jet fighters, and ground attack planes. With a 150-year reputation for causing mayhem, this legendary weapon has blown away a path to be the fiercest gun of all time. This is the aerial Gatling gun, a weapon that changed the world. Firepower. Nothing shaped military capability more. I'm Will Willis, former Army Ranger and Air Force pararescueman. I've trained with modern weapons until firing them is second nature. Now I'm teaming up with leading experts to examine the greatest military firearms of all time and discover how these weapons change the world. It has a higher rate of fire than any military machine gun in the world. Commonly known as the Gatling gun, this blast from the past is back on the front line, delivering massive firepower against armored vehicles, buildings, and planes. Although first developed in the 19th century, the basic concepts for this weapon haven't changed. Today's Gatling guns come in many sizes and numbers of barrels. But all Gatlings have multiple barrels that revolve and fire sequentially. This allows extremely high rates of fire without causing the barrels to overheat and malfunction, a problem with regular single-barrel machine guns. The technology has proven so effective, the Gatling gun has been modified to provide firepower in a wide variety of aerial platforms, including a light version, the GAU-19, developed for use in the air, on the sea, and on land. First manufactured by General Electric in 1983, the GAU-19 delivers up to 2,000 rounds a minute. Paul Snyder is part of the team that tested the newest model of this three-barreled Gatling.
The GAU-19 has got to be one of the most reliable crew-served weapons out there today. You can fire this weapon 35,000 rounds before you even have to worry about the first maintenance cycle. You know when you squeeze the trigger, you can neutralize a threat no matter what the threat.
That thing is nasty.
That it is, Will.
So we've got the GAU-19B, is that what that is?
The GAU-19B is less than a year old. There was an immediate need in Afghanistan for a lightweight weapon to go on the Kiowa, the OH-58D. In less than a year, we turned around an A model to a B model, started delivering those weapons. They're en route today.
What's the difference between the A model and the B model?
Weight, lost 30 pounds, and it comes with a battery pack. The coolest thing about that is you could lose vehicle power, helicopter power, and still be able to engage and shoot targets for 2,500 more rounds.
And that's critical in any kind of situation.
Absolutely.
And why don't you tell me a little bit about how it operates?
What we're firing here is 1,300 shots a minute. We found that's the sweet spot for crew-served weapons, and it's also good for rotary wing aircraft. You can engage a target, you get enough rounds off, and you still have plenty to come back and make another pass.
And it's 50 caliber.
50 caliber, same round, same length as your Modus and any other 50 caliber weapon out there right now.
From this platform, a Humvee, you've got a machine gun that fires 1,300 rounds a minute. What types of targets are you engaging?
What you're trying to neutralize, say you're on patrol. You look up into the canyon, and here comes a light armor vehicle coming down the road. You need to neutralize that target as quick as possible, and the 50 cal allows you to do that.
Right. The purpose of the 50 cal is to penetrate engine blocks or light armor. Well, I can't wait to try it.
Well, let's do it.
Okay. Let's do it. I'm ready. Okay, so where's my target?
All right, about 400 meters out in front of the weapon.
Okay.
We have a minivan that's going to represent your light armor incoming threat.
So there's the minivan in my sights, both eyes open. I mean, that's a great sight picture.
That's unbelievable, isn't it? It's holographic. All you got to do is put that red dot on, squeeze the trigger, and watch the target go away.
Yeah, it's very cool. Now, did you know that statistically, minivans are the most dangerous car on the road?
I think that's why we should neutralize that target today.
It's a public service. All right, so switching the weapon to fire. Got it.
Good job, Will.
That'll do.
Way to go, buddy.
I think that it's a great beat and zone weapon. I think that it's easy to walk rounds into place. I mean, obviously, having it mounted to a platform like this, once again, you don't have to carry any of that weight. It's easy to manipulate and maneuver your rounds into exactly the location you want them to be.
Yeah.
It's definitely a powerful piece of equipment. I can see how on the ground this would exponentially increase a unit's capability and combat effectiveness. So, I mean, it's badass.
Way to go, man. Way to
Appreciate it. The GAU 19 is a powerful blaster. But it pales in comparison to the largest Gatling gun on the planet. This is Davis-Monthan Air Force Base, home to the 12th Air Force's 355th Fighter Wing, where they fly a plane that's unique in today's aviation world. This beast is officially called the A-10 Thunderbolt II. Its pilots call it the Warthog, while its enemies call it the Monster. Ugly, tough, and vicious, just like its namesake, the Warthog is the only plane in the United States Air Force inventory that is specifically designed to fulfill the close air support role. And because of that, it is literally built around one of the most powerful cannons ever mounted in an aircraft, the GAU-8 Avenger. First entering service in 1977, the Warthog's GAU-8 Avenger is one of the most feared weapons in the world, capable of firing more than 4,000 rounds a minute. The Avenger earns its stripes in 1991 during the First Gulf War. In Operation Desert Storm, the Warthog uses the GAU-8 to destroy more than 900 Russian-made Iraqi tanks. In one of its primary roles as a tank killer, the A-10 has the ability to fire 30mm rounds of different types. Some of them are high explosive incendiary rounds that are basically like grenades when they hit the ground. Others are depleted uranium that are 1.7 times denser than lead and have the ability to penetrate 5 inches of armor at a range of 500 meters. The GAU-8 30mm Avenger cannon all by itself weighs 619 pounds. Throw in 1,174 rounds of ammunition, the drum, and the feed mechanism, now it's over 4,000 pounds and in excess of 19 feet long. A weapons maintenance team inspects and services the Avenger before each flight. Then, they precisely position it back into the plane. The maintenance team for this plane is overseen by Tech Sergeant Tarand Gallant. From mechanism to barrel, what are we looking at piece by piece here?
Here we have the feed side. The rounds actually feed in, go through, rotate through, they fire on the other side. They come out the barrels, as you know. 2 clamps here, you got the muzzle clamp and the mid-barrel support, and that's just to keep it compressed so that it doesn't spread, because it turns so fast, the barrels can actually spread.
Really?
From all that power generated. That's why it's set up the way it is.
To find out what it's like to fly and fire this multi-million-dollar weapon system, I've enlisted the aid of Major James Collier. His call sign is Beer Can.
It is a thrill to fly the airplane, and what I really like about flying the A-10 is when I go to the range, I fire the gun. You don't really feel the recoil from the gun. All you feel is a vibration. and you see the gun gas going over the canopy. About 1 to 2 seconds later, you see the impacts of the bullets on the target.
What is it like to sit in the cockpit of this thing?
Well, you're sitting on top of a 30mm, 7-barrel, 15.5-foot Gatling gun that shoots 3,900 rounds a minute. So it's instant feedback whenever you fire the weapon. All you have to do is put the pipper on the target and squeeze the trigger if the system is fully functional.
Put the thing on the thing and eliminate the thing.
That's right.
All right.
See it, I point at it, and I shoot it.
To see the full power of the GAU-8 Avenger, we've come to a range in the middle of the Arizona desert, and we've set up some cameras on 2 different targets. One is a conventional APC target. The other one is an 18-foot wide strafe target. Major John Collier is going to be coming in and unleashing the full power of that 30mm Gatling gun. Now, that GAU-8 is going to rip this target to shreds, and I don't want to be standing here when that happens. Here we go. He's coming in now. So this 810's coming in at a very steep angle, about 60 degrees, and he's taking a dive approach on the target. And what the dive approach helps this guy do is punch through the armor on the top of the APC in order to get through that thick skin more effectively. He's got that steep angle. Here we go. There he goes. Oh, you can see the target. Nice. So with the altitude that he's flying at, you hear the rounds impact the target before you hear the rounds actually fired from the gun. The cool thing about this is that you see all that exhaust from that gun just kicked out of the side of the aircraft as soon as he fires. But when that happens, it's already too late. He's locked on target, he's engaging, and whatever he's locked onto isn't gonna be there anymore after all the debris has stopped falling. Here comes another one. He's coming in now. Guns, guns, guns. Impact on the target. And the shots from the sky. How cool is that? Awesome. Today you can find Gatling guns throughout the arsenal of the United States Air Force. And they all spring from a weapon that made its debut in the Civil War. All of the multi-barreled guns used in the United States Air Force today can trace their history back to a single weapon system invented over 150 years ago, the Gatling gun. The groundbreaking weapon is named for its American inventor, Dr. Richard J. Gatling. Creating the gun shortly after the outbreak of the U.S. Civil War, Gatling's goal is to make a weapon so powerful it can bring an end to large-scale combat. It's an incredible advance over the single-shot muzzle-loading weapons in use at the time. The multi-barrel Gatling gun is manually operated by a hand crank. If the gunner can turn the crank fast enough, the gun can fire 200 rounds per minute. Though the first Gatlings have enormous potential, technical problems limit its use in war. And at 800 pounds, it's still too heavy to be moved around easily. By the late 1800s, however, most of these problems have been solved, and the Gatling gun begins having an impact on the battlefield. The secret to the Gatling gun is its multi-barrel design. A hand crank rotates the barrels, and as each one reaches the top of the weapon, it's loaded by a gravity-fed hopper. Each barrel has its own bolt and firing pin that fires the bullet as it rotates past an automatic trigger. As the barrel continues to spin, the spent cartridge is ejected, and a new bullet is loaded from above, starting the process all over again. I've come to Pennsylvania to fire a real piece of history. This particular Gatling saw real action in one of the most heralded moments of the Spanish-American War, when the U.S. fought for control of Cuba and other Spanish colonies. The Battle of San Juan Hill marks the arrival of a new world power. Yet, as it starts, American forces are being outshot by Spanish troops firing from entrenched positions at the top of the hill. Teddy Roosevelt prepares to lead his personally recruited unit, the Rough Riders, in a charge up the hill. A suicidal mission without fire support. That's when a detachment of Gatling guns moves into position on a nearby hill. The Gatlings open a steady and deadly fire on the Spanish troops. With fire support from the Gatling guns, Roosevelt and his Rough Riders make their successful charge up San Juan Hill. Today, one of the original Gatlings that saw action in the war is owned and kept in mint firing condition by Dr. Ed Weitzman.
It's the ultimate, to me, the ultimate development of antique weapons.
This particular Gatling gun has a unique history, is that correct?
This gun actually was one of 4 guns used by Lieutenant Parker, who was with the invasionists of Cuba. He attached himself to Roosevelt's Rough Riders, figuring that he could do more damage with the Gatling gun with the infantry up front rather than leaving it with the artillery in the rear.
Originally, the Gatling gun was viewed as a defensive weapon, not an offensive weapon.
That's correct. They were put back with the artillery.
And Lieutenant Parker revolutionized the way that these were employed.
Exactly. He was the first one to use a machine gun in the offensive role.
This is a really exciting piece, and I want to ask your permission to please fire your weapon that was at San Juan Hill.
As long as you don't shoot yourself in the foot.
This is a long stretch. Yeah, I promise. We've set up a variety of targets to measure the performance of this 1895 10-barrel Gatling gun. 7 milk jugs and 4 bottles will test the Gatling's mobility to traverse and elevate as it would have done at San Juan Hill. Then, I'll need to sweep 5 watermelons with the force of the Gatling's big 50 caliber round. Finally, silhouettes with 13 reactive discs will reveal the Gatling's accuracy at 100 yards. That's 55 targets, and I have 200 rounds to fire. Let's see how fast we can get this done.
Sure plugs in?
Yes, sir.
Commence firing.
Woo, hot brass on my nuts. Reloading. You got 1, 2, 3, 4 targets down. A little hiccup at the start, but this gun is surprisingly accurate. Now the tricky part. While Ed reloads, I have to adjust my position so I can traverse the gun and fire at the same time. All right, coming up. Elevating the line of fire is proving to be much harder, a clear limitation in the design. Coming down for the watermelons. Still, I'm making great time with the targets until the gun jams. It's jammed up. What do you have to do to unjam this? Okay, just pop the feed tray. Dr. Weitzman has obviously done this before, but I'm helpless and a bit worried. That's gotta be hot. Now we're back up and ready. I didn't break it, did I? I mean, this is a priceless piece of history.
It's a little mirror, see?
Just looking for daylight. All right. He whips out this tiny mirror to look down the barrel, making sure there are no rounds blocking any of the tin. Because if I send another round down one that's blocked, we're in trouble.
All clear.
The blockages really hurt my time. I'm just glad I'm not facing a charging enemy. Looks like we're all clear. All clear? All righty. That is exciting stuff.
Nice job.
Thank you. It was really accurate. You know, my first round that went down hit that first milk jug, and I was able to traverse very easily across. Just cranking that wheel has had nice, smooth action. You know, adjusting for elevation was a little bit more difficult. One of the things that I noticed was that I started out here on what I thought was the seat of this gun, and it was really awkward because my body was bent like this, but when we started shooting, drop some of that brass. Just drop it right there. It's all sliding down, and I've got hot brass in my crotch. and you know, and that made me jump up like this. But then I sat behind this thing, my sights lined up, and all the brass that was coming out of the bottom of the weapon was being deflected right here, and there's a hole right here. So anything that got around this went into that hole just like that. So through use, I think I discovered this is actually a brass deflector, so to speak.
I would tend to agree with you. I usually stand up and leave it down.
I gotcha. For a gun used over 100 years ago at San Juan Hill, it's pretty freaking impressive. In 2 minutes, I shot 23 out of 55 targets. And look at these hits on the discs. There's shots on the head, the chest, and you can see that these rounds are just impacting all around, you know, 3-4 rounds in the head here. I mean, good center mass shots up in these areas. This guy was just riddled with holes. I mean, there must be 50 holes in here. Thank you very much. I appreciate you letting me come here. I appreciate you letting me shoot that antique. I mean, an amazing piece of American history from the Spanish-American War. I mean, unbelievable. Despite success, such as the one at San Juan Hill, the Gatling gun is eventually made obsolete by the Maxim machine gun. Lighter, faster firing, and longer range than the Gatling gun, the Maxim is superior in every way. And it enables machine guns to become the battlefield weapon of choice. Then, with the advent of super-speed jet fighters around World War II, a new aerial gun is needed that can fire thousands of rounds per minute to shoot them down. The Gatling gun was doomed to the scrap heap by the machine gun, but the Gatling gun has made a remarkable comeback. During the 1950s, General Electric uses the old concept of the Gatling gun to design a new, electrically powered Gatling, the Vulcan. This F-16 is armed with the first of the modern Gatling guns, the M61 Vulcan cannon. It's a 20-millimeter Gatling gun that's capable of firing over 6,000 rounds a minute. The M61 Vulcan has been the main cannon armament on all U.S. combat fighters for 50 years. I want to go for a ride. First, I need to get fitted for my flight suit. What happens is if you're in a hard bank and the force of gravity is amplified, it's going to shunt blood, you know, out of the core of your body. And you're not able to oxygenate your brain, you're gonna pass out. What this G-suit does is it assists with squeezing the blood from the legs into the core.
Pilot's going to be in the front, you're going to be in the back.
Now that I'm suited up, I get a quick training session on the F-16 simulator. They hand you 2 of these motion sickness bags, appropriately labeled, okay? You're supposed to get in here with gloved fingers and somehow pull this thing out prior to puking, blow chowder in it, and then get it into your take-home freezer bag. That's the joke. I've seen the awesome power of the M61 Vulcan Gatling gun from the ground, but now's my opportunity to see it from the air, in the back seat of that F-16 two-seater. Piloting the F-16 is Major Dave Solomon. His call sign, Scrappy. So, in just the shortest sense, what are we doing today?
The short sense, we're going to go practice dropping bombs, and of course, we're going to shoot the Vulcan gun. 2 passes, 250 rounds total.
I can't wait to see it in action from that canopy.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Let's do it.
Believe it or not, I've waited my whole life to go on a jet wreck. Yeah, man, you'll enjoy it. I'm just hoping I don't shit my pants. I hope so too. Cuddle in, Scrappy going out with Will in the back seat on chaos number 3. 2-ting jet going out to range 2. We're gonna go and do a quick G warm-up. So I'm gonna do 4 to 5 Gs to the left and then 5 to 7 Gs to the right, all right? Okay. Chaos, G warm-up, 90 left, go. Yeah. That is awesome, man. And you can really feel that. Yeah, you can feel it. Yeah, it's awesome. Ugh. That's not why people might get sick, man. We'll squeeze it right out of you. It will, won't it?
So as we're coming in on the gun runs, we saw our bird lead us in. We came in right behind it, and that angle is so fast and so steep that it really, I mean, you're moving.
Chaos 3 cleared hot. Chaos 3. Okay, here comes the gun, my friend. Okay.
And when that gun goes off, I was right next to it. I could see the smoke. I could feel the vibration of the gun.
What you think, Will? That was awesome. We'll get one more pass. go. Here we go. All right.
And then we climb very quickly because if the pilot gets target fixated, he'll drive the nose of the F-16 right into the ground. Altitude, pull up, pull up. We climb very quickly, very fast. I could feel the suit squeezing on me.
That's it, 2 runs. That's it. We're empty, 250 rounds. Holy smokes, he goes so fast.
And to be inside of that platform when that Gatling gun is rocking.
That Vulcan, he really gets it.
Man, that
you
was
did a great
awesome.
job.
Thank you. Man, that Vulcan cannon is amazing. Unbelievable. 2 passes, 250 rounds, like that. Massive amounts of firepower coming out of that Gatling gun. Unbelievable. And actually flying with you was a dream come true for me. So
Yeah,
thank
well,
you
I had a
very
good
much.
time with you, man.
And the bag is
Appreciate
still empty. The bag is still empty.
Nice.
It's the most important thing, you know, maintain my... I'm about to go puke. The Vulcan proves the Gatling gun once again belongs on the front lines. But possibly the most famous modern Gatling is a compact model that first makes its mark in the Vietnam War. Known in the Army as the M134 and by the Air Force as the GAU-2, it fires a smaller 7.62 millimeter round, giving this Gatling the name minigun. But there is nothing small about its impact in the field. As a former Air Force pararescueman, I know that success can depend on both the minigun and the insertion aircraft. This is the HH-60 Pavehawk. In the United States Air Force, the HH-60 is used primarily for combat search and rescue, which means that if an air crew or U.S. asset is ever stranded behind enemy lines and needs to be recovered, it's an HH-60 and its air crew that respond to that call. Now on board, the HH-60 has 2 GAU-2 miniguns. One is operated by an aerial gunner and the other by the flight engineer. But these things are badass. Technical Sergeant Chris Morford is a gunner with the 55th Rescue Squadron.
I think the best thing about the minigun is reliability. You put out a lot of rounds in a very short time, and it keeps going.
So what is this GAU-2 minigun capable of?
It can shoot a lot of rounds at a high rate of fire and basically keep the heads down of the bad guys.
And the rate of fire is?
We have 2 triggers on there. It's 2,000 rounds per minute or 4,000 rounds per minute.
I think I remember this. You press one trigger and it's kind of, you know, fast, but then you get into the other one and it's nuclear.
Definitely, because we have 6 barrels and 6 bullets shooting through there.
How important is this minigun when we start talking about combat search and rescue and providing close air support?
It's phenomenal. We can reach up about 1,500 meters. We have that strength of going in there and being able to be our own weapons platform and taking care of the threat as another aircraft goes into the zone to pick up the survivors.
Okay, so what you're saying is if one is landing to pick up casualties or assets, the other aircraft can fly in close air support.
That's exactly right. We're basically our own wingman at that point in time. We don't need the A-10s. We don't need anybody else to help us out. We can go in there with a 2-shift, suppress, get in, get out.
Combat search and rescue teams go wherever they're needed. In this action, a U.S. Army soldier is wounded in a firefight. Within minutes, an aircraft carrying Air Force pararescuemen is on the scene. The GAU-2 gunner lays down suppressive fire as the pararescuemen swing into action. The wounded soldier is quickly loaded into a litter and hoisted aboard the hovering HH-60. The speed and skill of the pararescue team are instrumental in saving the wounded soldier's life. And the Pavehawk's miniguns allow them to move fast and save lives. Many of the miniguns used by today's combat helicopters, including the ones that I flew in as an Air Force pararescueman, are made right here at Dillon Aero in Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm not here to talk about how it's assembled, though. I'm here to put it through the ringer. Gunnery instructor Trey Hicks knows the Dillon minigun inside and out.
My favorite thing about firing the gun is just watching the impacts. I'm shooting 50 rounds a second, so you can't hardly miss. It's just a great gun. It's fast, easy to use gun.
So, Trey, how does the Dillon minigun increase the combat capability of the aerial gunner?
The Dillon increases the capability of the gunner by providing overwhelming firepower, something that's easily aimed, that's lightweight for power management, and something that's reliable and that will always shoot.
The Dillon is most often compared to the Mod Deuce.
Right.
Now, the Mod Deuce is a proven weapon system. It's been around for over 90 years. It's reliable. How do you compare the minigun to the M2?
Those are all true statements. It's a great gun. The minigun provides a lot more shot density. There's no movement in this gun. It's like aiming a laser pen at something. Where the Mod Deuce, because it's recoil operated, there's a lot of movement between each shot. It takes a little bit longer to get on target.
Now, the spec sheets say that this thing fires 4,000 rounds a minute. What kind of target requires that heavy volume of fire?
Any target, you know? Right. The great thing about it is I may be shooting 3,000 or 4,000 rounds a minute, but I can control that with burst length. So I can do as short a burst as I want and put out 50 rounds, 100 rounds, or I can suppress a whole hillside, you know, by doing 20 seconds of fire.
We're gonna have to test that out, so we'll head out to the range.
Let's do it.
All right, so our first test is going to compare the long-range accuracy of the M2 versus the 134. Now, since you're the minigun expert, obviously, you're going to fire the 134. Is that good?
Yeah.
A continuous 5-second burst will emphasize the difference in recoil and its effect of staying on target between the M2 and the minigun. We have a single barrel about 1,000 yards away. I'm going to unleash a 5-second burst on that target with the M2. We'll see how many rounds hit the target, and then you'll follow up with a 5-second burst of your own. We're shooting at the same barrel, a man-sized target. We'll see which rounds hit the barrel based on the size of their bullet holes. The M2's 50 caliber round is nearly 60% larger. I should get out about how many rounds, you think?
About 50 rounds.
And you're gonna kick out what?
250.
So you got better odds than me. Let's see what happens. Weapon's hot. Y'all good?
Good to go.
After a second, I couldn't even see what was going on. I couldn't see my target up front, and the gun just started this rhythmic jump up and down because of the recoil of the weapon system. So basically, what I have is a beaten zone. It's going to be very long. As far as rounds on target, I don't think it's going to be that good. Now it's Trey's turn with the minigun.
All right, firing.
You know what? With my weapon, there was a lot of that up and down, the change in elevation because it's bolt action.
Right.
You know, and it was, I mean, my beaten zone, I could tell, is a lot looser than yours. I mean, it looks like you were all over that target.
Yeah, you know, it was obscured from the tracer and some of the smoke, and I just kind of walked around the area where I thought the target was.
Yeah.
We'll have to go check it out and see what kind of hits we got.
I think you're all over it.
All right, we'll see.
Right now, we're gonna head down, we're gonna check out our targets. I'm not feeling too good about my accuracy overall. But that minigun, because it's not recoil operated, he was on point with it the whole time.
We got 1, 2, 3. 3 solid hits and then some frags.
Even though my M2 jumped all over the place, I still got 3 rounds on the target. But the minigun, because of its shot volume and lack of recoil, just peppered the target with 15 hits. But look at this keyhole, that's great. Got plenty of hits on the backside, a couple down here. This is a point-sized target. It's a man-sized target at 1,000 yards. I mean, it's high expectations for any weapon system,
sure.
Especially non-scoped weapon system. So, I mean, but it does get the point across that, you know, your minigun is a lot more controllable than that 50 cal in the same configuration. You're spitting out what, 5 times the rate of fire. So it's all good.
Right, and you know, that was one burst. There's 3,000 more rounds where that came from.
In the next test, it's my turn to try out the minigun and see who's faster and more accurate at taking out multiple targets. All right, Trey, this next set of targets is about 75 meters away, so a lot closer. We're looking at 3 man-sized targets and 2 barrel targets apiece. You're gonna be the X's, I'm gonna be the O's. You're gonna be on the M2, I'm gonna be on the minigun. Take out the barrels last, it's a race.
All right.
All right, tic-tac, oh no. Ready? Let's do it.
All right.
3, 2, 1, go. These monsters are kicking up so much dust, it's hard to see my targets. There's one down. Firing 4,000 rounds a minute, I have a real advantage and take out all my O's and barrels first. I so won. I so won. All right. Woo!
Nice shooting.
Yeah, that was great, man. You know, I didn't even have to use the sights when I was right here. All I did was look at the impact of the rounds. I walked them onto the target where they needed to be, let the dust settle a little bit, just to identify whether or not those targets went down. I took out my barrels, I took out Trey's barrels, I took out my barrels again. I did some crazy fire across the top, came across these other barrels. It was awesome. This is badass. And I can tell from here that this barrel is just shredded. When you get up close and personal with this thing, it is dangerous, it's on point, and oh my God, it's impressive. Look at this, you can't even count. You can't even count the number of holes in this barrel right here. Look at that, that is just so locked on and tight. So while the M2's larger 50 cal round packs more destructive power, the minigun's increased rate of fire and lack of recoil allows more hits on target. I'm tracking the evolution of the Gatling gun from its early hand-cranked model to the formidable weapons used on today's battlefield. The M61 Vulcan, a 6-barreled 20mm metal shredder that can fire up to 6,600 rounds per minute. It's so deadly and reliable that it's armed all U.S. Air Force fighters for over half a century. The GAU-19B, a 3-barreled blaster that fires the same lethal 50 caliber ammo as the famous M2 heavy machine gun, but at up to 2,000 rounds per minute. That's more than twice the rate of the M2. And the GAU-8 Avenger, mounted on the A-10 Warthog. A fire-spitting dragon, it can take out the most heavily armored vehicles in the world. Another Gatling currently being used is the one I'm a little more familiar with, the blistering high-tech minigun. I'm ready to take to the skies and put the Dillon minigun to the ultimate test. Tech Sergeant Trey Hicks is here showing me how to effectively use it at a distance and against multiple targets. The Dillon Arrow minigun is the most versatile and among the most deadly of the modern Gatling guns. And to show just what kind of mayhem you can unleash with this little monster, we've devised a special final challenge. What do we got?
All right, in this scenario, we've got a few vehicles suspected of planting IEDs in our area. They look like 55-gallon drums. So we're gonna fly by, look for the IEDs, and then we're gonna shoot them. If they go off, we know that they were definitely bombs.
All right, sounds great. You ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right.
Our goal in this final test is to first destroy the IEDs and then take out the vehicles. We have 4 passes and 6,000 rounds to get it done.
Okay, we've spotted our convoy, but on the first pass, Trey's gonna take out these barrels that are filled with explosives. We're gonna come back around, and I'm gonna take out the cars.
Time to see how accurately the Dillon gun can strike small targets from a moving aerial platform.
There we go. Nice. Again.
Every 5th round Trey fires has an incendiary charge called a tracer. This allows a gunner to see the projectile, helping to zero in on the target.
Gun is safe.
Nice. So Trey's taking out all the barrels. It's time for me to get on those cars. Good job.
Yeah, this will be a gunner change. He's gonna smoke the cars. Don't worry about the barrels. Really focus on those cars.
You got it.
With so many rounds spitting out of the minigun, it makes it easy to hit the cars even on the move.
That was awesome. Let's go back around and hit them again.
On this one, let's do it a little higher than the normal pass. This one, we should see the tracer really burning on this one.
On this next flight pass, the pilot increases the height and distances from the targets to test my abilities as an aerial minigunner. Got them all again. The tracer rounds help me stay on target.
Good. Nice burst length. It's good. Let's do a high-speed length straight.
On this next pass, our approach is fast and low. This minimizes our exposure to an enemy, but increases the difficulty of hitting the target.
So these things are going to go by fast, and just get on one, then go to the next one, get on. It shows that that gun can move really fast from one target to the next.
We're flying at 100 miles an hour, but I still nailed them. Finally, we're going to bring the helicopter in sideways and do a center pass, firing down directly over the targets to finish them off. This shows the versatility of the helicopter working in tandem with the minigun.
And this one, you can shoot fucking everything on that rope.
is the most awesome experience I've had in a really long time. I fire a lot of guns. This thing is pure adrenaline. Woo! I've flown on helos before and operated the minigun, but not that many rounds and not in that sort of volume. To come down and hit these targets one after the other, to see them explode, see them ignite. It's unbelievable.
We've seen how the Gatling gun has been completely transformed. From the hand-cranked original to the rapid-fire descendants that can take out everything from enemy personnel to the heaviest armored vehicles in the world.
The versatility of that weapon, combined with the versatility of the aircraft, really do make it a weapon that's changed the world. I'm Will Willis, locked and cleared. I'll see you next time on the range.